This is Trinity Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto travel back in time to save Uzumaki Clan. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
When many people first saw Uzumaki Yamamoto, they saw only what their eyes saw and believed about him based on his appearance. He appeared to be an old, sickly, tired man with no form of strength, despite the legends that he had returned as a young man. Many people, based on their first impressions, would assume the man was frail and that a small gust of wind would knock him over. Of course, this brings to mind the old adage that appearances can be deceiving. As a result, the many unfortunate Konoha ninja around him at training ground number 22 discovered when Yamamoto put them through the ringer in a spar. The man had removed his coat and upper clothing, exposing the physical body of God-made flesh. Without the long beard and wrinkled face, you'd never guess this was the body of an elderly man, let alone an Uzumaki. Yamamoto found it almost amusing to see so many Konoha shinobi on the ground, moaning in pain and in need of medical attention. During his time here, many shinobi had grown less afraid of him, claiming that the Uzumaki had passed his prime and should simply retire from service. They considered it an insult to their pride as Konoha's young men and women, as well as ninja, that this old man could keep up with them like it was nothing. As those who felt their wounded pride needed to be inflated again, they did the only thing that came to mind. Yamamoto was challenged to a fight. They are all versus Uzumaki Yamamoto. It drew a large crowd. Shinobi and civilians alike. Tsunade, Nawaki, Dan, and even the Sandaime Hokage himself are among the merchants. Danzo was also lurking in the shadows with his root, assessing Yamamoto's threat to Konoha. When the fighting began, even Orochimaru and Jiraiya stood back and watched from a safe distance. If it could be called a fight. It caused many of the ninja onlookers to realize that the man in front of them was not the frail old man they had all assumed him to be. Of course, Yamamoto could hardly be called weak now that the old Uzumaki had defeated 135 shinobi ranging from Chunin to Junin and even a few Anbu in pure taijutsu. Yamamoto hasn't slowed down. How old is he and how strong is he? Hiruzen thought as a bead of sweat ran down the side of his face. That's my old man Yama. Kicking ass and taking names. Exclaimed Kushina as she stood beside Tsunade, waving a victory sign at Jiraiya, who grumbled and reluctantly handed the woman a large roll of money. Tsunade would have joined in on the wager, but Nawaki reminded her that she always loses when she bets on something or someone. It earned him a smack on the head from her fist, but Nawaki knew it was all worth it in the end. Especially with a red-faced Tsunade staring at Dan when the man snickered at the truth and had to defend himself from the angry woman who heard it. The strength behind Uzumaki genetics is most impressive. If only everyone could share in such a bloodline trait, remarked Orochimaru, a hint of interest in his voice that hid a much deeper layer of greater interest beneath the layer of minor interest. For years, his sensei had told him that the Senju bloodline was superior to the Uchiha clan because both were descended from the Sage of Six Paths. Each clan claimed descent from the sage's eldest son, while the other claimed descent from the sage's youngest son. As a result, the mere richness of each bloodline's unique abilities was regarded as a grand treasure to be coveted, defended, and protected at all costs. And for the longest time, Orochimaru thought his sensei was correct. At least until today, when one Uzumaki Yamamoto, the oldest Uzumaki on record, was smashing through men much younger and in their prime. Yamamoto was well over a century old, having lived in the warring clans area before Hashirama and Madara ended the feud between their clans to form Konoha. It was almost impossible for someone with Orochimaru's brilliant mind to comprehend the idea of this old man outperforming those younger and thus, in theory, by the natural order of things, stronger individuals. He was aware that the Uzumaki clan were Senju clan cousins, and thus, to a lesser extent, Uchiha clan cousins. It also connected them to the Sage of Six Paths himself, putting them in the same category as Hiruzen's other two. Orochimaru was perplexed as to why his sensei did not place the Uzumaki clan in the same category of protection as the Senju or Uchiha clans. Wasn't the Uzumaki clan as deserving as the Senju or Uchiha? He'd have to talk to his sensei about it later in private. Is anyone else here still willing to let this spar continue? Yamamoto asked, looking around at the fallen bodies of those he defeated without breaking a sweat. No. We're fine, muttered one Anbu on the ground, half his mask shattered. Yamamoto let out a huff and grabbed his upper clothing, putting it on before grabbing his staff, sword and assuming the appearance of an old man once more. No one was fooled, and many gave Yamamoto plenty of room to walk by, their respect for the old man's prowess visible in their eyes.
The majority of the eyes are on him.
You were awesome as always, old man Yama, exclaimed Nawaki, as he always did after seeing the old man beat the snot out of all the other elites in Konoha's ninja force. He was certain a few Uchiha and Hyuga were among the beaten bodies back there. Tsunade scolded, Nawaki, be more respectful. Yamamoto smirked. It's okay, Tsunade-chan. The boy is just being supportive of me. Besides, we all know that Konoha's ninja forces currently needed this major wake-up call from my hands. There has been a growing sense of arrogance among their ranks as of late, Yamamoto replied, frowning as he thought about all the Konoha shinobi walking around with a hint of superiority in their step. You have to admit it yourself, Tsunade-chan, it has been feeling that way for a while. We are currently winning the war against Kumo and Iwa, but it is making some people in the village believe we are invincible. I think we can both agree from a medical standpoint that arrogance is its own kind of poison, Dan remarked after overhearing some of the drunk shinobi at the bar boast about how the other villages were weak and everyone from Konoha were. He's right, sis. Konoha needs a kick in the shins to keep it humble, or else we'll have a whole generation of arrogant jerks for ninja, Nawaki replied as Tsunade sighed. She's not the wrong cousin, Kushina added as Tsunade raised her hands in surrender. Tsunade exclaimed, all right. All right. You made your point. While Kushina, Dan, and Kushina laughed at his expense. So. On a different note, when is your two lovebirds' wedding? Nawaki asked, knowing it would make Tsunade blush and Dan sputter. And he was not let down. Well, I don't know. I mean, with the war. Dan replied, looking for Tsunade for assistance, but the woman was glaring at Nawaki and growling angrily. If I were you, Nawaki, I would run right now before your sister punches you out of the village, Yamamoto said, as Nawaki did and Tsunade followed. You know Tsunade's mood well, Dan remarked as he watched his future wife chase Nawaki. She is part Uzumaki and thus clearly has our temper, Yamamoto replied with a grin on his bearded face as Tsunade yelled at Nawaki and Nawaki taunted her. That she is Yamamoto-sama, Dan remarked as a sweat drop formed on the back of his head and he heard the sound of a crater being made from Tsunade's fist and Nawaki complaining about how she nearly hit him. So, what's it like to be a genin, my girl? Yamamoto asked proudly as he turned his attention back to Kushina. Good. Most of the academy students were wimps, but some have the potential to be strong, except for that girly and thinly clad Minato, Kushina concluded with a huff. Don't underestimate the boy. He has incredible potential for someone his age, Yamamoto said, as Kushina shrugged. If you say so, old man Yama, Kushina said, pretending not to care, while Yamamoto was preoccupied with other matters. The mission that will result in her kidnapping will take place soon. As much as I want to intervene and save the girl, I need those two kids to get together so they can have a child in the future who will be Uzumaki Naruto. The only thing bothering me about this situation is how Kumo knew how to target her in the alternate timeline. Surely Hiruzen or Jiraiya didn't try to stage it so that Kushina would fall in love with Minato and form an almost unbreakable bond with Konoha? They probably did, with Uzu being in that timeline and Kushina never really being able to bond with anyone when she arrived in Konoha after that event. But, with Uzu still alive and well, not to mention my assistance before and after Mito's death, Kushina now has ties in both places. Though it is more to the people who live there than to the village as a whole, Yamamoto thought, the man glancing at Kushina for a second. Oh, almost forgot, I never got a chance to thank you for saving me during that one mission a few months ago. Thank you Yamamoto-sama for that intervention, Dan said as he noticed Yamamoto turn to look at him and gave him a gentle smile. Yamamoto had waited patiently for Hiruzen and Jiraiya to assign Dan's mission to the man. The old Uzumaki remembered the story of Dan's death from his previous life, from the ambush to the sacrifice made to defeat the enemy in battle and win. Tsunade's heart had been broken by his loss after Dan had successfully healed her heart after Nawaki's death. Not only that, but the end result had made Tsunade bitter in her outlook on life, Shizune submissive to her commands, and Shizune generally shy and hesitant to do almost anything without the older woman's approval. All the more reason for Yamamoto to intervene and change the outcome. When the ambush arrived, Yamamoto responded by ambushing himself, and with backup in the form of some Uzu Anbu, he requested Garp send to provide additional support. It also provided an excuse for Yamamoto to have Garp send his newly reformed Anbu squads, complete with medic nins, via Tsunade's medic program, capable of fighting when necessary. The Anbu from Uzu not only decimated the ambush aimed at Dan and his team, but they also demonstrated their capabilities with medic nins due to the ambush team severely injuring several of Dan's comrades prior to being rescued. In fact, it was thanks to the medic nins from Uzu that 2 members of Dan's squad survived with all of their limbs intact. Naturally, the Hokage was displeased with this development, but not in the way that most people assumed. Most people assumed he was upset because Uzu now had the reformed medic nin program that Tsunade had hoped Konoha would have for the village at one point. When Tsunade was brought before the Hokage for answers, she told Hiruzen that Yamamoto discussed the program with Uzumaki Garp, the clan head of the Uzumaki Clan, about having it in Uzu because Konoha didn't want it when they were offered it. How Garp said yes, received a copy of the project information Tsunade had, and began to implement on their end. She actually questioned him about why he was so upset. Why should Konoha be upset that it went to Uzu when the Uzumaki clan has been a longtime ally of Konoha's and her cousin clan, with blood ties to both? Hiruzen warned her to be more cautious because even clans with cousin ties to other clans can be betrayed for power. Yamamoto, who had attended the meeting, let out a huff and mentally called Hiruzen a hypocrite for attempting to betray Uzu since assuming the Hokage had. Still, there was nothing Hiruzen could do about it because Konoha had had its chance and had missed out on the ground floor of this medic nin program. The Shinobi Advisory Council demanded that the Uzumaki clan send instructors to Konoha and that Tsunade provide notes for their own shinobi to train in, but Tsunade and Yamamoto both said no because it was now considered a clan matter between the cousins. Naturally, it irritated the higher-ups in Konoha greatly. Tsunade and Yamamoto reminded them that the village had a chance but blew it because of the war, the supposed time, effort, and, of course, the financial constraints Konoha claimed to have imposed on itself. All of this was proven to be complete nonsense when the Uzumaki clan took all of Tsunade's information and created the medic nin program without taking those issues into account. Overall, it made Konoha's higher-ups look like a bunch of spineless idiots, with the Hokage being the biggest of all. A nice little, yet noticeable blemish on the man's record as Hokage if there ever was one. No problem at all. Tsunade-chan loves you very much, and your death would have hurt her deeply. And little Shizune is a little sister to her as well. I wasn't about to have my cousin lose the man she loved before they could marry. I still have to give you the customary Uzumaki beat down like the one I gave Hashirama for Mito's hand in marriage. She may have the Senju name attached, but Tsunade is an Uzumaki as. Before I marry, I'm going to die at his hands. I'm sure of it. Dan thought as he hoped Tsunade could persuade Yamamoto to give him a break. You should try to visit Uzu sometime. You and Tsunade would enjoy it, Yamamoto said, with Dan nodding. Yes, I hear Uzu is doing well, and I also hear those 2 orphans you rescued in AIM are doing well, Dan replied, Yamamoto nodding. Yes. They are now part of a genin team with another member of my clan, an Uzumaki Nagato, I believe. They are really hitting it off, calling themselves Team Akatsuki, of all things, Yamamoto remarked as he alternated between Konoha and Uzu. And you're saying the idea had nothing to do with it? Dan questioned, knowing Yamamoto had a hand in it, as he usually did with things that drew his attention. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Yamamoto said innocently. Right. And I'm sure you had nothing to do with Jiraiya being strung up naked on the female side of the hot springs after he was caught peeping so all the women could beat the snot out of him, Dan thought as he made a mental note to always be faithful to Tsunade regardless of the consequences. He didn't need this old man for an Uzumaki to do something terrible to him now or in the future. And Dan was certain that the man would definitely do the latter. Hokage Tower right now. You promised me the little shit would die, sensei. Exclaimed Jiraiya angrily as he noticed Hiruzen sighed at his former student. And he would have died, Jiraiya. If the Uzumaki clan hadn't sent Anbu there to help step in at the last moment, Hiruzen replied bitterly after a brief pause. Damn Uzumaki clan, they always meddle when they get involved in something, Jiraiya grumbled angrily, while Hiruzen agreed. I know the Hyuga clan is chief among them. Yamamoto has been hounding them for months about their cage bird seal and making one that all the Hyuga clan can wear. Apparently, he is the maker of the original cage bird seal, Hiruzen remarked, seeing Jiraiya stunned by the news. You're shitting me? Him? Jiraiya inquired, shaking his head. No, I'm not. Though what the Hyuga use now is different than what he gave them. It was apparently called the Dojutsu Protection Seal and did everything the cage bird seal does now. Except it didn't cause the people wearing it any pain when a certain hand sign was used, Hiruzen explained, Jiraiya smiling. Well, I guess Mr. I'm such a great Fuinjutsu master, isn't so great after all if the Hyuga can change it into whatever they want, Jiraiya mocked, while Hiruzen frowned even more. Shut up, Jiraiya. You aren't one to talk when it comes to your Fuinjutsu skills, even if you are a master. He can make your work look like crap. I have seen the samples done by him when compared to your own. It outshines you by far, Hiruzen said, with Jiraiya grumbling. Yeah, well, I'm a better peeper at the hot springs, so I have that, Jiraiya murmured, causing Hiruzen's sweat to drop at his defense, relating to his work in Fuinjutsu. Aside from that, Yamamoto brought it to everyone's attention that the Hyuga clan signed a binding contract stating their clan would not alter, change, or basically butcher the original design, Hiruzen said, with Jiraiya wincing because he knew what that meant. And, as far as I can tell, Yamamoto has all the records to back up his claim on the matter, Jiraiya said, with Hiruzen nodding. With additional copies of the contract also located in Uzu. He brought it up at the last meeting when Hyuga Hibachi had had enough of Yamamoto's protest and demanded proof of such things being done. Yamamoto had everything on hand to present to the councils and the other clan heads. From the contract signed by all parties involved, including Hibachi's own grandfather, and even father were on it. What did Hibachi say to that? Jiraiya inquired, as Hiruzen sighed. He claimed the contract was a forgery and the signatures were forged, not to mention he called the Dojutsu Protection Seal insufficient and thus should not be used because it does not provide a proper hierarchy structure to any clan who chooses to use it, Hiruzen responded, with Jiraiya sighing. So he tried to bluff his way out of it, Jiraiya surmised, with Hiruzen nodding. Pretty much yes. Yamamoto told Hibachi that if he didn't change things within his clan now, there would be bad blood between the inner parts of the clan in the future that would go so deep, even the fear of using the cage bird seal wouldn't stop the Branch family from one day taking revenge. Hibachi, of course, misinterpreted Yamamoto's words as a threat made to his clan and banned any Uzumaki from ever entering the Hyuga clan compound in fear. What does the fire daimyo have to say about this? Such matters normally reach his ear and gain his attention when one or both parties yell loudly enough, Jiraiya inquired, as Hiruzen sighed. Right now, the current fire daimyo is hoping we can resolve this internally before being forced to intervene. I told him we would handle this issue, but according to the laws in place, I might have to side with Yamamoto on this. I don't want to for obvious reasons, but if I go against him, I risk the old man revealing other matters both of us can't afford to see brought to light, Hiruzen replied, Jiraiya scowling. What we did in terms of secretly betraying Uzu, I still say they can't prove it, Jiraiya said, shaking Hiruzen's head. Among other things, namely our actions relating to Senju Nawaki's near death and our more recent attempt to get rid of Tsunade's future husband Dan, he made it quite clear that our hidden actions could be proven if we challenge him further, Hiruzen added, while Jiraiya snarled. I'll kill the bastard myself if he marries Tsunade. I don't care if I become a missing nin for it. I'll kill him, go into hiding for years on end, and you can pardon me as your last act as Hokage before your successor takes over so no one can lay a hand on me, Jiraiya said, while Hiruzen gave him a cold stare. You will not do such a thing, Jiraiya. I need you in your spy network. I can't have either if you're a missing nin on the run. I can't protect you. I can't cover for you. And I certainly can't stop Tsunade from hunting you down to do unspeakable acts of vengeance upon your person after you tried, Hiruzen said as Jiraiya appeared to punch something. So that's it? Just let that sissy boy marry Tsunade Heim? My Tsunade Heim? To let him pollute her bloodline with his own? Jiraiya asked, with Hiruzen scoffing. Spare me all of your theatrics, Jiraiya. Your own bloodline heritage isn't anything to be praised about, and you know it. Remember, you have been an orphan your entire life, while Dan isn't. Between the two of you on bloodlines alone, Dan has you beat. Unless, you can provide undisputed proof that you are the son of some great high-ranking clan, or even the long-lost child of our own fire daimyo himself. You are out. You know I don't have such proof. Jiraiya exclaimed angrily. Then shut up about it. What's done is done. Besides, this will be a blessing for Konoha in the long run. For years, Tsunade had ignored, shunned, or punched out every male suitor until Dan came along. We need more Senju clan members, Jiraiya. Nawaki will find his own girls soon enough and Tsunade with Dan will help us have more than just two among our ranks. Not everyone, Jiraiya replied as he moved to leave. I am warning you this one time, Jiraiya. Do not go after Kato Dan. I only indulged you in your request to have him killed at the time because I thought it was the better choice. I also hoped you could persuade Tsunade to be with you in the years to come and the two of you could produce a child capable of being greater than either parent. But the window to that option has long since closed and cannot be opened again. Just let it go, said the Sandaime. Never. Jiraiya exclaimed before leaping out the window. Damn it, Jiraiya. Your obsession will become a problem for me in Konoha in the future, I just know it, Hiruzen said, because his student was always acting foolishly and making everyone associated look bad. Senju clan residence sometime later. So Minato saved you from those Kumo nin, huh?
Well, good for him.
I always knew that boy had a decent-sized brain in his head, Tsunade said, while Kushina blushed slightly in embarrassment over being captured, rescued, and finally about Minato saving her. Nothing it's special. I just let some of my hair out to leave a trail. He even mentioned how nice my hair was and that I shouldn't try to take out too much, Kushina replied, blushing. What's this? You're blushing. Does my dear fiery tomboy cousin have a crush on one Namikaze Minato-kun? Tsunade inquired, as Kushina blushed even more and glared at the Senju. Says the older woman, who is only now getting married before entering her hag years, Kushina countered, a tick mark on Tsunade's forehead. What did you say? I am not old in the least. Exclaimed Tsunade as Kushina shot her a raspberry. So you say, but I can already see gray forming in your blonde hair, and is that a wrinkle? Teased Kushina, as Tsunade became angrier. Tsunade yelled, that's it. You're dead. As the two ran around the room, one chasing the other. Well, now I know where I get it from, Yamamoto thought, the old man smirking at the two causing chaos around him. He was going to miss it when he died. Yamamoto's time was almost up when the Shinigami appeared before him in a dream the night before. The Second Shinobi War was drawing to a close. Dan was still alive, Nawaki was still alive, the Uzumaki clan was still alive, and most of the dark things that had led to more dark things in the future were no longer possible. Yamamoto knew Madara was still alive, hiding out in his little lair, waiting for his chance to find someone to carry on his legacy, and the will that was actually Kaguya's. She had used her own power to poison Madara's mind beyond repair because his already agitated attitude toward his life made him an easy target among her options. She could have gone after the Senju line, but Hashirama's outlook on life put a stop to that, and the Uzumaki clan was also on his tail. As a result, the one side with hatred for Uchiha already in their hearts as the primary target. Something will have to happen as a result of what the Shinigami told me. As in Uchiha Obito becoming Madara's pupil and attempting to break Kurama's seal in order to attack Konoha. But, unlike the last time, there will be a large number of Uzumaki clan members present, and I will make certain that a repeat of the previous event does not occur. Konoha would not be attacked by the fox, no one would die, and no one would know Uzumaki Naruto was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Yamamoto thought as he left instructions for Garp and the Uzumaki clan in general to read after his death for the day when the Kyuubi would be sealed inside his future self. Of course, this assumes that his mother or father instilled it in him on the night of his birth. There was always the chance that the outcome would change. Still, as long as Obito fails in his mission, that should suffice. At least for the time being. For the time being, all Yamamoto had to do was live long enough to ensure that certain issues did not arise after his death. Weeks later, Uzu 2. Uzumaki Garp was reading a lengthy but crucial letter from Yamamoto, and it was not a good one. According to the letter, the old man was finally feeling his age and that his days were numbered. His letter contained a series of instructions regarding specific issues to be carried out upon his death, all of which revolved around Konoha. The letter went on to say that Uzu was to keep Konoha at arm's length until Hiruzen was no longer Hokage and the man's advisors, as well as a certain warhawk for a rival for the seat, were all dead. To change its security system so that no one in Konoha could be trusted except those Yamamoto listed, and to destroy the secret tunnel entrance before rebuilding a new one. Not only that, but Yamamoto insisted that if Kushina became pregnant with her own child, why Yamamoto thought Garp had no idea, she should have the child in Uzu, and under heavy guard. In the event that she cannot come to Uzu, they were to enter Konoha secretly and not reveal themselves until the very last moment. To use all of their abilities to protect Kushina during the birthing process, which would put the fox at risk of escaping. Garp, of course, read the hidden meaning behind the letter, stating that those in Konoha would be salivating for the power they would one day have if they saw an opportunity to take the Biju from Kushina into another Uzumaki. If what the letter implied was true, and they would ensure the child suffered, it could be her own child. The Uzumaki clan was well aware of Jinchuriki's mistreatment in other villages and thought Hashirama was a moron for dividing them up without considering how the people of each village would use them. If the man was still alive today, Yamamoto and Garp both wanted to punch him in the face. Whether Mito's husband or not. This letter is deeply concerning. Yamamoto was the one who ensured our survival all those years ago, at the height of the Second Shinobi War. Not to mention that he saved our cousin clan member Nawaki and Tsunade's lover Kato Dan because he believed their deaths would harm Tsunade. I was initially perplexed as to how he knew, but dismissed it as an old man's wisdom, instincts, and intuition being razor-sharp from years of experience. But what about this? No. This is more than just a warning. This letter consists primarily of A. Blast it all. What exactly is the word? Premonition. Yes. A forewarning. A prediction of the future and what will happen if we do not act. Mito clearly trusted him to steal the Shinigami masks from the shrine. She had faith in him to look after Kushina after she died in Konoha. I trusted him long enough to realize he was a full-fledged Uzumaki in every sense of the word. He saved our clan from annihilation multiple times. If I don't listen to him now, when this could be his final act of warning us, I'll be a complete moron. Garp reasoned before summoning his clan's most elite Anbu. Yes, Garp-sama? Inquired Uzu's Anbu captain. We're going to strengthen and alter our defenses quietly. I want new security seals, detection seals, traps, traps within traps, and everything else we can do to fortify Uzu. I want Uzu to be so well defended, we could withstand a Biju bomb and still flip the said Biju off. Exclaimed Garp as his Anbu team in front of him sweated. Ah. Garp-sama, you're being overly dramatic again, one of the Anbu remarked before being punched in the back of the head by Garp. I'm not. Now get to work. I have a letter here from Yamamoto-sama himself, and from what the message he sent to me states, the man foresees trouble ahead if we don't do something about this, and fast. Garp yelled angrily, shaking his fists at the now terrified group. Yes, Garp-sama. Right away. Exclaimed the Anbu captain as his team prepared to leave after retrieving their fellow Anbu who was on the ground. Yamamoto-sama stated unequivocally that Konoha may try something similar to what they did previously in the future. Was he talking about another shinobi war? And, if so, when will it happen? No matter, I have to put things in place before that happens, Garp reasoned before returning to his desk to make additional preparations for the future. 4 months later in Konoha. Uzumaki Yamamoto was no longer alive. Tsunade herself confirmed it. Of course, she cried, as did everyone who knew him. What caused your death? Natural. The man died peacefully in his sleep. Peacefully. Happy. The woman could tell that the old man believed in a bright future with a few cloudy spots, but nothing that those he knew couldn't endure. The man had done so much for Uzu, his cousin clan, and, to a lesser extent, Konoha. It was a shock to the Uzumaki clan to learn that such a great man had died, and only 1 month after the Second Shinobi War had ended. He even left Kushina a nice large home near the Senju clan compound after secretly purchasing the plot of land before constructing it. The old Uzumaki mentioned it in his will and where she could find it to dispel the genjutsu for herself. Yamamoto explained in his will that the house was large because you will need it one day when having a family of your own one day with that special man in your life, which caused Kushina to blush when read aloud because she knew exactly what he meant and who he was referring to. When Tsunade presented the report to Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage hid his joy at learning that the old Uzumaki had died. Yamamoto had been a thorn in the Sandame's side for so long that it was difficult to believe he had died and could no longer influence events in Konoha. The Hyuga clan had been on the defensive for so long due to the push for reform in their house division. With Yamamoto dead, the issue would hopefully be put to rest, and the Hokage was confident he could keep any further complaints from Kushina at bay. Oh, how I wish that were true. I require access to that man's body. Alternatively, get Orochimaru to access it before the body rots. I'm confident that once he has enough Uzumaki genetic material, he will be able to find a way to extend our lives beyond the normal expectations. Once we combine it with the material I can gather from the Senju clan, the means of being truly immortal with godlike powers will be within our grasp, Hiruzen thought, smirking at the prospect of living for so long and controlling unfathomable power through the various powers granted by such bloodline splicing. I take it you heard? Danzo asked, emerging from the shadows. Naturally. Tsunade just left to mourn his death in private. I take it you feel some form of emotion known as happiness in that emotionless husk you call a body, Danzo? Perhaps a small smile? Hiruzen questioned, Danzo remaining emotionless the entire time. Emotions are for the weak, Hiruzen. I have no feelings for Yamamoto in terms of reaction to his death. I didn't care for him when he was alive, and his death is no different. I take it Orochimaru will be informed soon so he can obtain some genetic samples from the corpse for testing? Countered Danzo, with Hiruzen smirking at the predicted answer. Yes. Though my student may already know and be doing it right now. Currently, Yamamoto's body is in the morgue. Easy enough to sneak in, take what is needed, and sneak back out without anyone knowing, Hiruzen replied, while Danzo nodded. The Uzumaki clan will come to claim his body. We should destroy it and claim some kind of accident caused such an outcome, Danzo suggested, because it would be so simple. A final act of vengeance against Yamamoto, I take it? And to harm the Uzumaki clan no less? Inquired Hiruzen, who found the idea appealing. They set back our master plan by several decades. They ruined our chances of becoming, without a doubt, the strongest of the major 5 villages. They do not deserve anything in Konoha. They don't deserve anything. I say deny them what they claim is owed and never apologize for it, Danzo said angrily, stomping his cane at the man. Hiruzen noticed Danzo gripping his new cane tightly in his one remaining hand and remembered Yamamoto paralyzing him 3 months before. Danzo had tried to approach Yamamoto privately in the hope of persuading the old man to help him overthrow Hiruzen for the title of Hokage, implying that the old man should assist him in removing the Sandame because of the man's past sins against the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan. Danzo was not innocent in the schemes concocted either, but he was certain Yamamoto did not know that, and decided to press onward. Only to have Yamamoto draw his sword and slice into Danzo with deadly precision. The old Uzumaki then took Danzo's right arm and eye and used the fire manifesting ability of his Zanpakuto to cauterize the wound instantly. The platoon of root nin in hiding rushed to their master's defense, but were instantly burned alive, and turned into ash before Danzo's remaining horrified eye. Do not put me to the test, Shimura Danzo, or you will discover that there are worse things to fear than death. Even now, the sting to his pride, dignity, body, and soul stings Danzo fiercely because he is unable to recover from such injuries, forcing him to retire as an active shinobi, and Hiruzen had put him on as a third shinobi advisor, both to help keep Danzo close by to take a fall if Hiruzen felt it was necessary and to ensure the crippled man felt he was still important to some extent. The Sandame Hokage, like Danzo, saw people as tools, but unlike Danzo, he preferred to use broken tools rather than throw them away. Tsunade had tried to heal his injuries, but the Sannin had told Danzo that it was impossible, even with her skills, and that the best she could do was give him a new eye to replace his lost one so he could see better, which Danzo declined because he didn't want a normal weak eye to replace his sharp one. Yes. I'm sure Yamamoto's permanent mark on your body and soul has nothing to do with it, Hiruzen said, smirking at Danzo's crippled state and knowing the man was lying straight through his teeth. From Konoha the morgue. Ah, Uzumaki Yamamoto's own body. What a fascinating character. Even in death, his form still looks as imposing as ever. He doesn't even look dead. Just asleep. Don't you think so, Jiraiya? Remarked Orochimaru, a grin on his face, having sensed Jiraiya in the morgue seconds after arriving himself. Yeah, my heart is racing. Orochimaru, hurry up and get what you need. I want my time to spit on the corpse and punch his stupid wrinkled face to take to the other side, Jiraiya said angrily, upset that not only was Tsunade married to that sissy boy Dan, but she was pregnant not long after their honeymoon. She even had the audacity to say that if the child was a boy, he would be named Yamamoto, which was insulting. Jiraiya felt she should be having his child, not Dan's. His. Jiraiya of the Sannin. Oh, Jiraiya, stop whining. Besides, Tsunade made it clear to you a long time ago that she was not romantically interested in you. Go out and write a book or something. It might just help you clear your head of the useless junk swimming within it, Orochimaru said, while Jiraiya reacted angrily to the insult to his mind. Stop talking, Teme. Jiraiya exclaimed angrily before noticing Orochimaru frowning. Interesting. There's some kind of seal here, Orochimaru observed as he began his own examination of the old Uzumaki. Which seal? Let's see. Exclaimed Jiraiya before shoving Orochimaru aside and examining it himself. Only for the seal to suddenly activate, and to their surprise and horror. Uzumaki Yamamoto's eyes opened once more. The old man was alive. And had both Sannin by the throat with an iron grip. I see. I've been dead for less than a day, and already you're here to steal from my corpse like vultures smelling dead flesh, Yamamoto grumbled before sitting up and looking the two dead in the eyes. How? Inquired Orochimaru, who was thinking the same thing as Jiraiya. You'd be surprised what can be hidden. While this unexpected return is only temporary, it is more than enough time to take care of you two for your past sins, Yamamoto replied, with Orochimaru and Jiraiya realizing what he had done. Somehow, the old Uzumaki managed to lock away a portion of his life force until a certain point in time when it would be released, giving Yamamoto a temporary second life. We have no idea what you're on about. Exclaimed Jiraiya as his grip on his throat tightened. Do not misunderstand me, Jiraiya. I know you two worked together with Hiruzen to destroy my clan. I know you two conspired with Hiruzen to kill Nawaki for his genetic material to be used in the unethical experiments Orochimaru was conducting here. And I also know it was you, Jiraiya, who plotted with Hiruzen to assassinate Dan simply because he was planning to marry Tsunade. Because it wasn't your time to die, I spared your miserable lives the much-needed death they deserved. That is no longer a problem. The world no longer requires whelps like you two. Exclaimed Yamamoto, tightening his grip on them. We were far from alone. Danzo was also a part of it. Kaharu and Homura were as well. Jiraiya said, hoping to divert Uzumaki's wrath away from himself. I know you're an idiot. I am aware of many wonderful things you have accomplished. What Orochimaru has accomplished. Hiruzen's actions. This is what Danzo has done. What his advisors have done, of course. They will all pay in the future. Right now, you are the only deaths I need to be concerned about, Yamamoto replied before summoning his Zanpakuto's power and setting the room on fire with his mind. What are you up to? Stop, stop. We're going to be burned alive. Pleaded Jiraiya, looking into Yamamoto's eyes, which were unwavering. You say that as if I should be concerned. I made it perfectly clear to my clan what would happen to me if I died while in Konoha. They don't require my body. Only my sword. And I assure you that it will survive the fire that is threatening to consume us because it is the fire. My fire will. Yamamoto exclaimed as the flames intensified. No. I have so many potential test subjects I need to gather and experiment on. Theories that need testing. Thought Orochimaru as he struggled to free himself from the man's grip. And he just heard rumors about where to find the legendary Kusanagi. Your corrupted souls will be expelled from this world. Nothing is going to change that. As a result, the future will be a much better place for everyone. Not just Konoha, as you intended with the Sandaime in the hope of ascending to some form of godhood. Yamamoto finished before the fire engulfed all three of them. Damned you! Yelled Orochimaru and Jiraiya angrily as the fire devoured all three of them before exploding. When the Hokage, Tsunade, Kushina, and a team of Anbu returned to the scorched area after deeming it safe, all that remained was one Uzumaki Yamamoto's Zanpakuto, fully sheathed, in the middle of the room, and looking perfectly fine. As if it hadn't just been in a raging inferno and explosion the day before. Hiruzen scowled angrily at the sight. He knew both of his students were present when the unexplained explosion and fire occurred earlier. He knew Yamamoto was involved. He knew that this sword was the source of the fire that consumed his two students. That this sword caused the explosion to bring about the figuratively placed icing on the cake. Unfortunately, Tsunade and Kushina were already in front of the sword before he could even give the order to his Anbu to get the sword. At the very least, Hiruzen intended to seal the damn thing away, use some kind of excuse that it was too powerful for anyone else to wield, and bury it deep in the Hokage vault. What are you getting at with that? Hiruzen inquired, Kushina clutching it tightly. We're sending it back to Uzu. Where it belongs, answered Tsunade stiffly while she did not look at her former sensei. That is not going back to Uzu. It's going in the Hokage vault and be sealed away until further notice, ordered the Sandaime with Kushina glaring at him. It's part of the Uzumaki clan. As a result, it belongs in Uzu, Kushina countered, his Sandaime Hokage scowling. This is a sword. Nothing else. Anyone can wield it, and as such, I will not allow its power to fall into the hands of irresponsible people, Hiruzen said as Kushina glared at him. You've never been fond of old man Yama. You've always despised him. You, Danzo Teme, Orochi Teme, and Ero Sennin, Kushina remarked, while Hiruzen frowned, knowing he had to tread carefully. I didn't despise him, Kushina. I just didn't agree with him constantly interfering in matters that he shouldn't be interfering in the first place. Regardless of his intentions, Hiruzen countered as the two women stared at him. He only intervened when it was necessary. Both Nawaki and Dan are still alive today as a result of his intervention. Uzu is still alive and a strong, dependable ally with them, thanks to my medic program. The man made it easier for Kushina to adjust to her new surroundings. He was going to legally unite the Hyuga clan into a single united house. Exclaimed Kushina, while Hiruzen, who knew most of the clan heads San, especially the Uchiha and Hyuga clan heads, had supported Yamamoto on numerous occasions. Regardless, his sword is still far too dangerous for anyone to handle. Tsunade, look what it did in this room. Kushina. Jiraiya and Orochimaru have died as a result of his weapon. Because of him, the village has become weaker. Said Hiruzen as Tsunade looked at him. What brought those two here in the first place? Neither of them had any business being here. Much less to see him, Tsunade said, while Hiruzen cursed himself for mentioning those two being present. I'm not sure.
But I'm sure it was to pay their respects to such a great man, Hiruzen said as Kushina and Tsunade exchanged glances. You didn't have to be an Uzumaki censor to figure out the Hokage was lying. I have my doubts, sensei. In any case, I'm not giving Yamamoto sword-samas to you or Konoha. I've already discussed this with Garp-sama. He regards the sword as a clan relic and will not allow Konoha to have it in the village's possession. When reading his reply, I noticed something about Konoha's tainted fire in the letter, Tsunade said as Hiruzen stared at her. I'm also saying that the sword is not theirs to claim. I don't care from which clan Yamamoto was born. That sword will never leave Konoha or the vault. It is my command as Hokage, and it will be carried out. Replied Hiruzen while the Anbu moved to take it from Kushina. Try and Uzu will sever ties with Konoha. Not only that, but the Senju clan and any other clan that chooses to follow will leave this village, Tsunade threatened, with Hiruzen looking shocked before frowning and ordering his Anbu to freeze with a simple gesture of the hand. Would you abandon the village that your family helped to build? Asked Hiruzen, as Tsunade looked at him. If this village is going to spit on my family's legacy? Yes, I will let it fall down because people like you are causing it to rot from the inside out. Just admit it, sensei, there has been a growing dislike for the Uzumaki clan in Konoha since you became Hokage. Kushina witnessed it as a child and overcame it thanks to Yamamoto-sama and Grandma Mito. I noticed it as well. When looking at the people, so did Nawaki and even Dan over time. There were even 3 failed break-in attempts at the Senju clan home, with evidence indicating the perpetrators were after Uzumaki clan secrets. The fact that someone attempted to enter the house using means only a friend could use in secret suggests that someone inside Konoha was responsible. At first, I thought the people despised the Uzumaki clan because Kushina was not originally from here. But now I realize they're doing it because they're stupid and arrogant, and someone high up has been secretly encouraging them on, Tsunade replied, while her former sensei just stared back at her, and she knew he was aware of them. What she didn't realize was that Jiraiya was the one behind them, but the Uzumaki seals were second to none when it came to security. Jiraiya had barely managed to make it out of the house all 3 times barely alive. He was, officially, on a long-term mission during each attempt so no one would question if the man suddenly returned to Konoha with a new understanding of Fuinjutsu. Though Hiruzen was now wondering if Yamamoto knew but chose not to reveal anything because he decided it would be better used as optional leverage in the future. Hiruzen also wondered if Tsunade and Kushina knew because Yamamoto told them to keep their guard up around Jiraiya. You're making a serious accusation, Tsunade. If the implication in your voice behind it being me is any indication, remarked Hiruzen, while Tsunade simply looked at him. Is this true, sensei? Swear on your wife and children's lives that you had nothing to do with any of it? Or the law you attempted to enact that stated those born of foreign nationality could never become Hokage? Even if the person proves they are not only qualified, but loyal to a fault, and have served Konoha faithfully. You know, the one you tried to push through when neither Nawaki nor myself were around to vote against due to missions when the time came to decide on the issue, questioned Tsunade while Hiruzen glaring at her. That law is to keep foreigners from taking over as leaders of this village and destroying us from within. Who's to say that a ninja from another village, such as Iwa or Kumo, leaves under the guise of defecting, becomes Hokage years later, and then uses his or her position to weaken us to the point where our enemies can easily crush us? Hiruzen challenged, while Tsunade and Kushina remained silent for a second before Tsunade smirked. You didn't deny being a part of the previous crimes I mentioned earlier, Tsunade observed as Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. My name is Hokage. You don't have the right to judge me on my decisions whether they are possibly ethical or not. In this case, every action I have done is beyond reproach. Now give that damn sword to my Anbu or you too will be imprisoned for treason and held there until the next Hokage is appointed, threatened Hiruzen,
as Kushina's eyes narrowed before she felt a faint pulse of assurance from the sword. Kushina, to Tsunade's surprise, stepped forward and gave the sword to the Anbu captain, but as soon as she let go of it, Kushina, Tsunade, Hiruzen, and the other Anbu with them watched in horror as the new holder was consumed in fire by the sword and turned into ash. Not fit to hold. Those were the 4 words that echoed throughout the room before the now hovering weapon flew to Kushina's hands. You knew that would happen, Hiruzen charged, smirking. Prove it, Kushina replied as Hiruzen continued to stare. Look at it, sensei. You were defeated in this round. Orochimaru and Jiraiya had come here illegally to see Yamamoto body. Samas they paid the price for being down here with their lives for whatever reason. That Anbu just tried to take Yamamoto's sword Samas from Kushina. How many more people must die before you get the message? Tsunade remarked, her former sensei remaining silent. Alright, let's go. Garp-sama will want this back in Uzu right away, Kushina said, with Tsunade nodding. Damn it. If another Uzumaki clan member wields that blade, it means someone on par with Yamamoto himself will be around to cause problems. Add in Orochimaru's own death and Jiraiya's, and Konoha has been severely harmed, with the former's R&D projects and the latter's spy network being stalled in the process. It means we will have to rely on the untrustworthy minds in R&D to fill. Hiruzen couldn't believe Yamamoto had destroyed the Uzumaki shrine after removing all the masks and sending the contents to Uzu. He had planned for Orochimaru to secretly visit the temple after Mito died to see if the man could learn the secrets behind it. Kushina wouldn't have been an issue because Hiruzen would have kept her away from it, but Yamamoto, Mito, and the Uzumaki clan had all meddled in his schemes. Preventing the Uzumaki clan from being annihilated or monopolizing the right to have the Kyuubi in Konoha. The Senju clan was given a second chance to rise after nearly extinction, preventing Hiruzen from monopolizing their power for his own gain. Taking the Shinigami masks from the Uzumaki clan shrine. These could be used to free any soul from the Shinigami and thus could possibly be used to cheat the deity of any soul in its possession, namely himself. Hiruzen wanted to live forever to wield the power of a god and crush his enemies underfoot without anyone knowing the truth until it was too late to stop him. Only immortality was regarded as immortal. His only hope now in salvaging this situation was finding the perfect successor to his title as Hokage and ensure this person finished it. Or at least found a way to bring him back in a way that would allow Hiruzen to live forever afterwards. Something Hiruzen himself knew he would quite possibly not, given how long it would actually take to remotely fix his plan and train a worthy successor to carry said plan out. Because even Hiruzen knew that even with the Edo Tensei, for all its greatness, it was not true immortality, and the titled Kami no Shinobi had no intention of being a puppet to the one using it on him.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.